It started on a Thursday night at my firm's rooftop mixer. Jessica stood beside me, sipping a margarita, already the loudest voice in the group. "You know what Mason needs?" she said, grinning at my coworkers. "A little chaos. He's like a walking instruction manual." Everyone laughed, unsure if it was safe not to. I smiled politely, trying to steer it back to light conversation. But she wasn't done. She poked my chest with her fingernail. "Come on, show them you have a pulse." I put my drink down. "Jessica, don't do that." "Oh, relax," she said. "I'm teasing. They know it." I looked at the faces around the table. They didn't know what to do with their eyes, I said, calm but firm. "Jokes are fine until they start costing respect. Knock it off." The laughter stopped. Jessica tilted her head, half amused, half annoyed. "See, that's what I mean. You're too serious." "And you're crossing a line," I said, standing. "Enjoy the night. I'm leaving." "Wait, you're leaving me here?" "I'm leaving the behavior," I said. "You can ride home with Mia or call a cab." The last thing I saw before walking out was her stunned expression, caught between embarrassment and defiance. At home later, the silence hit like a clean wall. Jessica came in around midnight. She didn't speak. Neither did I. That night, lying in our bedroom in the house we'd bought together 5 years ago with our combined salaries, I realized something important. When someone laughs at you long enough, they stop seeing you. And when they stop seeing you, you either stay invisible or you stand up. I'd just done the second. We'd been married 8 years. 8 years of building what looked like a solid middle-class life on our combined $180,000 income. My $85,000 from the accounting firm. Her recent promotion bumped to $95,000 at the marketing agency. The $280,000 house, with its $140,000 remaining mortgage, represented everything we'd worked toward together. But somewhere along the way, Jessica had started treating our partnership like her personal comedy show. The next evening, she acted like nothing had happened. She opened a bottle of wine, the same Pinot Grigio we'd shared on countless ordinary nights. "You really made a scene last night," she said. "Walking out like that. People were talking." I was at the sink rinsing a plate. "They were talking because you made me a joke," I said. "Oh, come on," she said. "It was just fun. Everyone knows I tease you because you're too serious." I dried my hands and turned toward her. The kitchen looked the same as always. Granite countertops we'd saved 2 years for. Stainless appliances we'd researched together. But something fundamental had shifted. "Teasing is fine when it stays kind. What you did wasn't teasing. It was disrespectful." She rolled her eyes. "So now I can't even joke with my husband?" "You can joke," I said. "You just can't mock. There's a difference." Jessica crossed her arms, her promotion's confidence from 6 months ago still radiating from her posture. The new salary had changed something in her, made her bolder, more willing to push boundaries she'd respected before. "You sound like a policy manual. This is exactly why people think you're uptight." "Then let me make it clear," I said, keeping my tone level. "No more digs in public, no jokes at my expense, no side-eye or eye rolls when I speak. If you start, I'll end it by walking away." Her face tightened. "Rules now?" "They're not rules," I said. "They're boundaries. I'm not here to be your punchline." Jessica poured herself another glass, avoiding my eyes. "You really can't take a joke, can you? I'm just trying to bring you to life a little. Ever since my promotion, you've been so—" "Peace doesn't mean lifeless," I interrupted. "It means I can breathe." She shook her head and tried to change the subject. "We have dinner with the Millers on Saturday. Don't make it awkward." "I won't," I said, "as long as you don't make me a prop again." She laughed once, short and sharp. "You're unbelievable." I picked up my jacket from the chair. "Maybe, but I'm done being the entertainment." I left her standing in the kitchen, trying to decide if she'd just lost a round or something bigger. By Monday, things were polite on the surface. We spoke about groceries, bills, the weather, nothing that mattered. Our work group chat had been buzzing since Friday, with weekend plans and project updates, but I noticed Jessica had been unusually quiet there too. Then at lunch, my phone buzzed. One of my coworkers had tagged me in a post. Jessica had uploaded a short video of me at my desk from the night before, tapping away on my laptop. The caption read, "Life with a spreadsheet, pray for me." The responses were predictable. "Spice him up, girl. Take him dancing. Looks like a robot, but cute." Jessica had liked every single one. The notification showed 43 likes and climbing. That night, she was chopping vegetables when I walked in, the same routine we'd maintained for years. The mortgage payment was due next week. Our shared checking account automatically set to handle it like every month. Everything looked normal on the surface. "Nice post," I said. She smiled without looking up. "It was funny. People loved it." "Yeah," I said. "They loved watching my privacy turned into a punchline." She set the knife down. "You're overreacting. It's harmless." "No," I said. "It's another version of the rooftop. Same crowd, bigger audience." She gave a small snort. "You take yourself way too seriously." "I take respect seriously," I said. "Since we're apparently broadcasting our marriage, I'm setting new terms." She frowned. "What now?" "We're separating finances. I opened a new account today. I'll transfer my share for bills and the mortgage, $1,300 for the house payment, half the utilities. But anything extra, you handle yours, I handle mine." Her face twisted. "That's ridiculous. We're married. We have joint savings, shared goals." "Then start acting married," I said. "If you want to test me, pay for the experiments yourself. Our $12,000 savings account can stay joint for house emergencies, but I'm not funding your social media career." She leaned on the counter, glaring. "You're punishing me." "I'm protecting myself," I said. Jessica laughed once, brittle. "You think this will last? You'll get tired of this act. You always come back to normal." "I'm not acting," I said. "I'm done negotiating for basic respect." Her eyes flicked to the floor. For the first time in our 8-year marriage, she didn't have a comeback. The confidence that had grown with her promotion seemed to waver for a moment before she caught herself. The next morning, she didn't say goodbye before leaving for work. By the weekend, I'd started spending more time at Howard's garage. He ran a small repair shop that his family had owned for 40 years. The kind of place where men still fixed things with their hands and nobody needed to perform for an audience. Howard Pierce was old school, 62 years old, calloused hands, and a way of cutting through nonsense that came from decades of diagnosing real problems. Working there after hours felt cleaner than any conversation at home. Saturday evening, I was helping him replace a brake line on a '98 Ford pickup when Jessica's car rolled in. She stepped out in heels and perfume, way too dressed for an oil-stained floor. "There you are," she said, voice carrying through the whole shop. "Fixing cars now? Trying to feel manly?" Howard wiped his hands on a rag and gave her a polite nod. "Evening, Jessica." She ignored him and looked at me. "What's the plan, Mason? Join a biker gang? Start drinking beer for breakfast?" I straightened, keeping my tone flat. "Just helping a friend." "You're avoiding your wife," she said, circling the workbench like she owned the place. "You can't run away every time someone teases you. This is what I mean. You're too sensitive for your own good." Howard's voice cut through the tension. "Maybe stop teasing then." Jessica shot him a glare. "Excuse me?" He shrugged, not looking up from his wrench. "You keep poking him. Don't act surprised when he steps back. Been watching this dance for weeks." She let out a sharp laugh. "Wow. You've got everyone believing you're the calm hero now." "Congratulations, Mason." "Jessica," I said, "we're not doing this here." She folded her arms, her marketing agency polish clashing with the honest grime of the garage. "You're really choosing this dusty garage over me? Over our home? Over what we built together?" "I'm choosing peace," I said. For a second, something cracked in her expression. The mask slipped, and I saw something that looked like genuine hurt before she caught herself. Then she smiled that smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Fine, enjoy your peace and your new best friend." She turned and left, her heels clicking sharp against the concrete. Howard watched the door close, then looked at me with the kind of expression that said he'd seen this movie before. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, exhaling slowly. "She's just losing the audience." He nodded once, went back to work, and we didn't speak about it again. That night, Jessica's car was in the driveway when I got home, but she wasn't waiting up. The house felt different, not angry, just empty. Whatever we were building together, she'd already stopped helping with the construction. The work group chat had exploded that day with Jessica's latest post, a photo of our kitchen table with my coffee mug and newspaper, captioned, "Sunday morning with my exciting husband." 26 likes, 12 laughing emojis. I read through the comments while she was upstairs, presumably getting ready for bed. Each notification felt like another small cut. 3 nights later, I came home from work and saw an envelope sitting in the center of the kitchen table. My name was written across it in her looping handwriting. Next to it, a note. Maybe this will wake you up. Inside were printed divorce papers, not official, just a template from some legal website. Half the blanks weren't even filled in. The forms looked official enough to startle someone, but fake enough that she could claim it was all just another joke if it didn't work. I stood there for a minute, reading every line. I wasn't angry, I was just tired. Tired of being the test subject in her experiments with my emotions. Tired of wondering which version of my wife would walk through the door each night. Tired enough to believe her bluff was actually an invitation. So, I grabbed a pen from the drawer and signed where my name belonged. The signature felt surprisingly easy, like muscle memory. When she walked in 20 minutes later, she stopped mid-step. "What are you doing?" "Finishing what you started," I said, sliding the papers toward her across the granite countertop we'd chosen together 3 years ago. She blinked, then laughed. Too high, too forced. "It was a joke, Mason. You really thought I was serious? Come on, you know me better than that." "You use divorce papers as a joke," I said. "That's how serious it's become between us." "Oh, stop," she said, her voice rising. "You're being dramatic. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You blow everything out of proportion." I picked up my overnight bag from beside the counter, the one I'd packed that afternoon after deciding I was done with tests. "No, I'm being clear. You wanted to see a reaction. This is it." She reached for my arm, her fingers cold against my skin. "You can't just walk out. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it." "You meant to scare me," I said, pulling away gently. "And it worked, just not the way you planned." Her eyes went wide, the realization finally hitting. "You're not really leaving. This is just another one of your moods. You'll be back tomorrow, wanting to talk it out like always." "I am leaving. I've got a short-term rental near the office. I'll send you the address. For mail and bills. The automatic mortgage payment will keep running from our joint account until we figure this out." "Mason, please," she said, voice breaking now in a way I hadn't heard in months. "You're overreacting. I just wanted you to care more, to fight for us." "I do care," I said, stepping toward the door. "That's why I'm leaving before this gets worse." She stood there frozen as I walked out, still holding those ridiculous fake papers in her hand. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back at the house we'd painted together last spring, or the garden she'd spent weekends planning. I just left. The rental was a furnished studio apartment 15 minutes from work. Nothing like the life we'd built together, but clean and quiet. That first night, eating takeout Chinese food alone, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The next week, Jessica began her campaign. It started small, texts in the morning. "Hope you're eating real food. Miss your terrible coffee. The house is too quiet." Then photos of our dog, our kitchen, a memory of some vacation we'd taken to Colorado 3 years ago, when things were still easy between us. By Friday, she was waiting in the lobby of my office building with a paper bag, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Half my colleagues walked past, giving her appreciative glances. "Lunch?" she said brightly, like we were newlyweds meeting for a romantic date. "I've got meetings," I said, checking my watch. The partners expected me at the Henderson account review in 20 minutes. 5 minutes, she insisted, pulling out sandwiches from that deli we used to frequent. "I'm trying here, Mason, really trying. I made your favorite, turkey and Swiss, extra mustard." "You don't fix disrespect with sandwiches," I said quietly. Her smile faltered, the performance mask slipping. "You're cruel. You know that? 8 years of marriage and you're throwing it away because I hurt your feelings?" "I'm sorry, Jessica," I said. "You don't apologize. You perform. There's a difference." She blinked fast the way she did when she felt the crowd slipping away from her show. Then she turned toward the receptionist and said, loud enough for half the lobby to hear, "He's always this serious. I don't know how I stand it." That was enough. I stood. "Lunch is over." That night I ignored 3 calls. The 4th came as a voicemail, her crying, saying she'd ruined everything, that she didn't understand when it had all gone wrong. Her voice cracked talking about the mortgage payment, about how empty the house felt, about missing the way I hummed while making coffee in the mornings. The next day she sent a picture of our kitchen table where the fake papers had been, empty now, except for a single coffee mug, captioned, "Can we start over?" I didn't answer. The social media campaign intensified. Instagram stories about missing my other half. Facebook posts about marriage being hard work with carefully chosen photos of us from happier times. Her friends commented with sympathy and advice. He'll come around. Men need time to process. You're too good for this drama. But underneath the performance, I could see the cracks. The perfectly curated posts couldn't hide the fact that she was performing for an audience of people who didn't know the real story. By the end of the month, the tone had changed. She came by my apartment one evening, no makeup, hair tied back in the messy bun she wore when she was genuinely upset, not performing upset. "I can't sleep," she said from the hallway, looking smaller than I'd seen her in years. "I keep hearing the quiet. The house echoes now." "Quiet's what you said you wanted to wake me from," I replied, not inviting her in, but not closing the door either. "I didn't know what that meant," she said, eyes red-rimmed and honest. "I thought if I pushed, you'd show more emotion, more passion. I didn't realize you'd disappear entirely." "I didn't disappear," I said. "You just stopped looking in the right direction." She stepped closer, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married 8 years ago, before the promotion, before the need to turn everything into content. "Can't we fix this? Go to counseling? Try again?" "Not until you stop needing to win every interaction." She covered her face with both hands and nodded, like someone who'd finally run out of words, out of strategies, out of ways to make this my fault instead of a problem we'd created together. Then she left, and for once, I didn't feel empty watching her go. Outside my apartment, her car sat for a minute with the headlights cutting through the evening darkness. I watched from my window as she gripped the steering wheel, probably crying, probably trying to figure out what had just happened to the life she thought she controlled. Then the car turned the corner and vanished, taking with it the last of my guilt about choosing myself over us. That night, the silence felt steady, like something I could live with long term. When the official papers arrived 6 months later, they came from an actual law office this time, not a website template. Morrison & Associates, the firm she'd hired after finally accepting that my signature on those fake papers hadn't been a bluff. Jessica had already filled out her section. The handwriting looked shaky, uncertain, like she still wasn't sure she wanted to finish what she'd started. The numbers were all there in black and white. House value, $280,000. Remaining mortgage, $139,147. My retirement account, $47,000. Hers, $52,000 after the promotion raises. Joint savings, $11,847 after 6 months of separate living expenses. 8 years of building a life together, reduced to asset division and debt allocation. We met at the attorney's office on a Wednesday morning in late spring. The building smelled like coffee and leather, serious money solving serious problems. Jessica wore black like she was attending a funeral, which maybe she was. I signed quietly, page by page, while the lawyer explained community property law and settlement terms. She broke the silence halfway through the stack of papers. "This isn't what I wanted, Mason." "You put the papers on the table," I said, not looking up from the signature page. I just signed them." "That was different," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the air conditioning. "I thought you'd fight for us, argue with me, prove you cared." "I did fight," I said, meeting her eyes for the first time that morning. "For years. You called it boring." Her lip trembled, the composure she'd maintained through months of lawyers and mediators finally cracking. "You're really doing this? Throwing away everything we built?" "It's already done," I said, signing the final page. The lawyer collected the papers efficiently, explaining the 30-day waiting period and final decree process. When we left, Jessica followed me out to the parking lot, like she had something left to say. "You're choosing emptiness over love," she said, her voice carrying across the nearly empty lot. "I'm choosing peace over performance." Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. 8 years of marriage, and she was still trying to control the narrative, still trying to make me the villain in her story. "You'll regret this. You'll realize what you've lost." "Maybe," I said, unlocking my car. "But I'd rather regret leaving than keep regretting staying." That weekend, Howard helped me move the last of my things from the house. He didn't ask questions, just lifted boxes and handed me tools, like we were working on another brake job. His 40 years in business had taught him when to talk and when to just show up. Jessica stayed inside most of the time, pretending to clean, but really avoiding the finality of watching me pack up 8 years of shared memories. When we finished loading the truck, she came to the doorway, eyes red but dry, voice trembling with what sounded like genuine emotion for the first time in months. "If you walk out of here, that's it," she said. "No more chances, no more trying." "I know." "Then say something," she said, her voice breaking. "Anything. Tell me you'll miss this. Tell me you're sorry. Tell me something real." I looked at her standing in the doorway of the house we'd chosen together, surrounded by the life we'd built and the future we'd planned. For a moment, I could see the woman I'd married before the promotion changed her, before she needed an audience for everything. "You had a good man, Jessica," I said quietly. "You just wanted proof he could break." She froze, the words hitting like cold water. "That's not fair." "It's honest," I said. Howard carried the last box past her, giving a small, respectful nod like he was leaving church. I followed, closing the door softly behind me. No shouting, no final fight, no dramatic exit, just the quiet sound of something finished. The first month after the divorce was finalized felt strange. I set up a simple routine in my new place. Run at dawn, shower, work, cook actual meals instead of grabbing takeout, read books I'd been meaning to get to for years, sleep through the night without wondering what mood would greet me in the morning. Howard dropped by one Saturday with a case of beer and curiosity about how I was holding up. "You look like a man who finally exhaled," he said, settling into my single decent chair. "I am," I told him. "It took a stack of papers to do it." He nodded, glanced around the apartment that was small but entirely mine. "She reach out again?" "A few times," I said, "mostly long texts about missing me, how she never meant to hurt me. Last week she sent one at 2 a.m, a full apology, saying she understood now what she'd done." "Did you answer?" "No," I said, opening 2 beers. "There's nothing left to fix. She burned down the stage and still wanted an audience." He nodded slowly, the way men do when they recognize a truth that doesn't need explanation. "Then you did right." After he left, I sat on my balcony and read her last message one more time. She wrote that she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and that she'd give anything to undo what she started. I didn't feel triumph reading her words, just relief that the storm was finally behind me. Now, the quiet isn't heavy, it's earned. I go to work, come home, cook my meals, and sleep through the night. I don't replay her voice or the rooftop or the kitchen. I just breathe. She wanted chaos. I chose calm. And I've learned that peace doesn't need witnesses. Just a man who finally stopped volunteering for the fire.